In the annals of history there are few conflicts as unusual and seemingly absurd as the Great Emu War of 1932. This bizarre confrontation between humans and birds took place in Australia, and has since become a legendary tale of military misadventure. After World War I, many Australian veterans were given land in Western Australia to farm as part of a government scheme to help them reintegrate into civilian life. However, the Great Depression hit hard, and these farmers faced significant hardships, including a severe drought in the early 1930s. To make matters worse, approximately 20,000 emus, large, flightless birds native to Australia, migrated to the region during their breeding season, attracted by the newly cultivated fields. The emus, with their voracious appetites, began to devastate the farmers' crops. Desperate for a solution, the farmers turned to the government for help. In response, Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery was sent to lead a military operation against the emus, armed with 2 Lewis machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. The war began in November 1932. The initial plan was simple: drive the emus into a corner and mow them down with machine gun fire. However, the execution proved far more challenging than anticipated. Emus are fast runners, capable of reaching speeds of up to 31 miles per hour, and they have a tendency to scatter in all directions when threatened. On the first day of the operation, the soldiers encountered a group of about 50 emus. They opened fire, but the birds quickly scattered, and only a few were killed. The next attempt saw a similar outcome. A flock of 1,000 emus was targeted, but the machine gun jammed after killing just a handful of birds. The emus proved to be surprisingly resilient, and their thick feathers often protected them from the bullets. As the days went on, the soldiers adapted their tactics, attempting ambushes and setting up strategic positions near watering holes. Despite their efforts, the emus continued to outsmart and outrun the military. The birds' erratic movements and the rugged terrain made it nearly impossible to achieve significant success. After a week of frustrating and largely ineffective efforts, the operation was called off. Major Meredith reported that his men had fired 2,500 rounds of ammunition, but had managed to kill only around 200 emus. The enemy had clearly won the first round. Undeterred, the government launched a second attempt in December 1932. This time the soldiers had a bit more success, but it was still far from the decisive victory they had hoped for. After nearly a month of engagement, with approximately 1,000 emus killed, the operation was finally abandoned for good. The Great Emu War became a source of both embarrassment and amusement. The media ridiculed the military's inability to defeat a flock of birds, and the farmers were left to find alternative solutions to protect their crops. The government eventually offered bounties on emus, which proved to be a more effective method of controlling the population. Despite the absurdity of the conflict, the Great Emu War highlighted the challenges faced by Australian farmers and the unintended consequences of human intervention in nature. It remains a fascinating and humorous chapter in history, a reminder that not all wars are fought with humans, and not all battles end in victory. Today, the Great Emu War is often recounted with a mixture of disbelief and laughter. A curious episode that underscores the unpredictability of nature and the resilience of wildlife. It stands as a quirky testament to the lengths humans will go to protect their livelihoods, even when faced with the most unusual of adversaries.